Today on Supernormalized, we meet Alicia Sweezer, a certified professional life coach whose journey defies convention at every turn. She's a scientist and she's turned into an intuitive empath, a survivor who has reinvented herself after brain injury, and also she's a fierce advocate for those who face down narcissistic abuse. She's a founder who built success without blueprints, finding her own way into her intuitive gifts and helping people. And she's a bit of a misfit that proclaims superpowers where others see oddity. Alicia believes life's obstacles aren't walls, they're springboards waiting for us all. And her story offers practical wisdom mixed with refreshing humor that transforms pain into power. If you've ever felt out of place or doubted what's possible beyond limiting beliefs, this episode holds new perspectives coupled with honest insights on stepping fully into your own authentic self. From embracing weirdness as strength to defining identity to navigating grief and building resilience, it's all here. So stay tuned as Alicia shares through her journey the tough truths that actually bring hope and strategies designed to anyone listening that can start shifting today. Get ready for a grounded inspiration wrapped in real talk coaching. Let's jump into Alicia's world today on Supernormalized. On with the show. Subscribe. Welcome to Supernormalized, Alicia Sweezer. Alicia, you've had some extraordinary challenges, including multiple traumatic brain injuries, and that's changed your whole life and perspective of life. Can you walk us through some pivotal moments when everything could have fallen apart but didn't?
Well,
And welcome
you want
to
to
the
start
show.
like before birth, or I'm just
Oh, okay.
teasing.
We're going to go that far back. All right.
No, I'm teasing. For all my human design friends out there, my profile is a 3-5, so they fully understand what the challenges look like for us with those numbers. No, this last one, yes, I've had multiple traumatic brain injuries, and this last one that I had in 2006 is really the one that was sort of cumulative and changed the trajectory of my life completely. And I used to be a wildlife biologist. That is what I thought I would be doing forever. That was my dream. I was able to do that. It was like living my best life. And then I received this other injury, and years of physical therapy, many doctors, no one sort of back then knowing how to treat these kind of, post-concussive syndrome, those kind of things. And through that journey of trying to find things that would heal my body, because I am one of the people that have a body that doesn't fit in medical textbooks, does a lot of things backwards. It's very sensitive, those kind of things. And there's so many of us out there like that, that it really took me on a healing journey of my own. And the universe guided me to then be able to use my gifts that I was born with to be able to serve other people, their animals, and help them find their own path in healing as well.
So did the injury itself actually wake up some of your abilities?
No, this is what's interesting, because that happens for so
It does
many
happen
people.
for some people. Yeah, I thought I'd ask about that. That's why.
And for me, it wasn't like, oh, I had this and then all of a sudden I could do these things.
Yeah.
There was so many, like my ability to talk to animals, I was born that way. Me being very clairsentient, very claircognizant, like the knowing and feeling, empathic, like I was born that way. I just didn't know, because when you're born a certain way, you just move through the world and you don't know that it's different because it's like breathing to you. And so what happened through that journey, one, there was a massive shift in personal identity, right? And particularly in the US, where very much our identity is tied to what job we do. And when you no longer have that job, your world really gets turned upside down. And for me, I am a biologist, whether it's what I get paid to do or not. It's how I see the world. And so there was a lot of that process of really coming to terms with, well, who am I today? And who am I if I don't do this particular thing? And who am I going to be moving forward? And a lot of people go through those, that's like why they call them midlife crises, where people come to terms with like, I don't even like this job or this career that I picked. I want to be doing something different. And we have this awakening that happens. And so for me, no, my psychic gifts were already there. They just sort of became more of the forefront and became very directed in how I live my life and how I help people and move through this world.
When they came out for you, was that something that was innate in you when you just engaged with it, or is it something that sort of just popped out as like, oh my God, I can actually experience that now? How did that sort of
Both
happen for
actually
you?
happen.
Oh, right. Okay.
Because as you know, this journey, it's a journey. Like there are still things that I will find. Someone will ask me like, can you do this? And I'll be like, well, apparently I can. I didn't know I could do that thing. That wasn't one that I've done before, but yes, I can do that. So
Yeah.
we're
Yeah.
always finding new things. Our development is always ongoing. And at the same time, there were things that I was born with that were innately there. The other thing is, and this is one of the things for the people side of my business, we talk so much about when we have things in our life that aren't a match for us, how they really can affect everything. So if you're in a job that you don't really want to be doing, if you're in a relationship that's not a match, it affects every part of your life. It affects your physical health, your mental health, your spiritual health, as well as your psychic gifts. And so that was one of the things years later after this last head injury. My now ex-husband and I divorced in 2014. And we separated in 2013. And that was really interesting because the moment we separated, I felt this flood of intuition and gifts and so many things and awarenesses coming in that because we just weren't a match. And when you make that change, it all changes in all aspects of your life. And so many things were coming in. I was hearing animals everywhere and I was like, oh, and things of how I wanted my life to look and sensations and emotions and hearing things and hearing other people. It was just this massive flood that came in. So that was one of those pivotal moments also where you can sort of choose to shy away from that and be like, nope, I'm going to go back to choosing what I have chosen over the last so many years, or I'm going to choose something different in this moment and move forward with what is happening for me.
Right. It speaks to the idea that we all vibrate at a certain frequency, and when there's a mismatch, there's discord. So to actually change that, take away the discord, that allowed you to actually be in accord with the universe and your infinite nature. So there was a way for it to actually manifest and be recognized.
Absolutely. And it's one of the things with my pet parents. I talk a lot about the energetics and how our energy can affect our animal and their behavior and how their energy affects us and how that affects the relationship and all of that then goes on that could be, causing challenges in the home.
Mm-hmm. Being both a scientist and a psychic isn't something that many people relate to. How do these two seemingly opposite parts balance within your coaching methods?
Ooh, it's just a fabulous question. It's my favorite. I call people like me analytical empaths because it really is a superpower. And you're correct that it's not very common in the world. I'm coming across more and more of them. And hopefully someday I'll teach a class on it and, to help people with their particular type of psychic development. Because when you do have both of these sides, the sort of traditional routes of psychic development don't work. They're very backwards. Like for years, I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I'm doing this wrong. No, I just learned a different way. And so what it is it's really this bridge of the analytical part of our physical human brain that has these abilities to see patterns, to recognize the shifts in things. And then when you add in your psychic ability, so for me, right, my two strongest are feeling and knowing, and then sight and sound are right behind. That adds such an extra layer that when I'm working with someone, particularly intuitive mentoring or even the life coaching, we're talking about a relationship, I can sense the second that their energy has changed and they're now thinking of a memory of when they're 3. And my scientific brain puts that into the pattern of behavior that they've had for however many years. And then we can marry those together and shift things so quickly.
Wow, that sounds like a powerful method. I like that understanding of it well and the way you explained it then. So, and what does an analytical empath look like day to day then? And how does that shape your approach with clients?
Ooh. For me, my world is always about following the energy. So when I wake up in the morning, I look at my planner, my to-do list of tasks that I need to do to run my business, do dishes, also, take care of your home, take care of Romeo, my fabulous cat. And my intuition tells me what I'm supposed to do first. I follow the energy because if I do them out of the order, things don't go as smoothly. I get in my own way a lot. Like just because, people think, oh, you're psychic, it must be so easy. No, a lot of times it's more challenging. And so for me, I look at the list, I feel the energy, I go, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. And then the planner part of me, because I'm a massive planner, goes, okay, now how do I build that structure in? How do I go through, writing the emails for that day? And then if the energy starts to change throughout the day, then we get to adjust to that as well. It's also how I schedule clients. Like when I have someone reach out, the first part I ask is this someone I'm supposed to work with? If I get a yes, great. Then we coordinate our schedules. And if sometimes it's so interesting, they'll be, my guidance will be like, nope, you're supposed to see them on a Thursday. And I'll be like, okay, I will schedule them for a Thursday. And so it's always present for me of the planning part along with the intuitive part.
Yeah, it sounds like that for picking up clients that actually are meant to be on Thursday, maybe that's meant to be in resonance with the planetary day for that day or something like that. Right.
It's so very true. Everything I do, if I have an event, I ask the event, what day are you supposed to be on? And it will tell me. What time are you supposed to be?
What process do you use to ask that though? I mean, how do you, can you give us an example of how you would actually tune into that?
Yeah. So for me, I'll either ask it out loud or I just ask it in my head. And so, I have this idea for an event and I'll be like, okay, so what day is it supposed to be? And then because, like I said, I'm clairsentient, I'm a feeler, you feel into the energy. So if you run through the days, if you're like, is it supposed to be a Monday? You can check the energy of, is it light or heavy? So if something feels light, that's true. That's yes, that's a match. If something feels heavy, it's not a match, it's a lie, something is false. And so that's how I ask the question. I'd be like, is it supposed to be this week? I get a yes or no, or a light or heavy. Which day? And then you just ask those questions along the way.
Yeah, so that tuning in is like a sentient sort of feeling of body heaviness that you experience.
Yeah, and you don't have to be like the light or heavy, the yes or no, like that's a universal energetic tool. For me, because I'm a feeler, it's a little stronger, but even people that are clairvoyant or clairaudient, everybody feels energy. That's science. Everyone always says it's woo-woo, but energy is actually science. Whether you call it vibes or energy or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So everybody has that ability to go, oh, okay, that's light or heavy, or hear a yes or no.
Yeah. I mean, you can just think back to a time that you walked in a room and thought, well, the vibe feels off here.
Right.
Everyone knows that feeling, right? And if you can use that sort of as a template to understand what no is, then you can find out what yes is quite easily.
Absolutely. And that's one of my favorite, I do a lot of intuitive mentoring, and it's one of my absolute favorite things to do is to help people with their abilities and their skills. And it's so dear to my heart because I remember what it was like for me for most of my life, not having tools and trying to function in this world. And then when I learned things, I was like, oh my gosh, this changes everything. And I want to be able to give that to every person on this planet.
As a part of your journey, you had some extreme experiences with narcissistic abuse, and I can attest to how tough that can be. I've been in relationships which have been that sort of informed. So you've overcome it yourself. What was one hard truth about recovery that you'd like every listener who's hurting right now for something like that to truly hear?
Ooh, yeah. So one of the biggest thing that I struggled with, my clients struggle with, friends, anyone who's been in any kind of narcissistic relationship is the how did I not see it? The how did I not know? The why did I stay so long? And the truth is we all have, in my 2-cent personal opinion, we all have something that attracted that person to us. And for a lot of people who are empathic, it's really this sort of almost like the two sides of a coin, because narcissists can be very intuitive as well. And they can pick up very much on the people who have the big hearts, the givers, because that's usually what the dynamic is in those relationships. And so because we're givers, because we see the best in people, and because we came here to change the world with those abilities that we have, it's that place of we want to see the best in them. We give, that's how we love. And we just have those filters, and we have those filters until it's time for those filters to be removed. There is no, oh, I should have. There isn't a, how did I not see? It really is all divine timing and our own personal path and the growth in that. I mean, I was in, the relationship for 17 years. And there were things I knew. Like, I'm like, I know. The other part was is I didn't have the tools to change it. Like, I went to therapy. I talked about it, but there was no tools given to learn how to shift it, which is like, that's one of the things I do. Everybody goes home for homework. Even if you come for a traditional psychic reading, you go home with homework because we're going to be changing some stuff. And so my invitation to everyone would be like, let the judgment go. You didn't do it wrong. You didn't do it in the right time or the wrong time. And you saw it when it was time to see it.
For me, part of the story of that experience myself was be able to grow past it to the point where I could have compassion towards the fact that they built this relationship with themselves and others as a survival strategy. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard to first when you're in it and you think, why is they so crazy?
Right.
It's like, but that's what they thought was the right way to behave to get things to happen. So they feel safe, right? Because whatever caused them to feel unsafe in the first place is an ongoing thing for their whole lives. So once I recognised that and I could step back and go, okay, now I know what's going on there, then that enabled me to even recognise that I could walk away, because it's not my problem to solve. It's, I guess for some people they could hang around forever, but for me it was like many, many years, and then like, no, I can't do this anymore because it's too draining. And it changed my life in a very positive way in the end too. Mm-hmm. You've actually mentioned some of the information I've read about you, that you like to help people break free from societal boxes. Now, what's one myth about personal transformation or coaching that drives you crazy?
Ooh, just one.
You can go to many if you want.
Right? That it's very pretty and it's tied up in a bow and it's very easy. And, there are so many, and it's one of my challenges. Like, there are a lot of people out there in the spiritual world who sort of paint it with a broad brush like that, of like, oh, if you want to manifest something, just raise your vibration. What does that actually look like? What are the steps to do that? Like, there's a lot of spiritual bypassing that goes on. And the truth is that really personal transformation is messy. It can be hard. It isn't in a blink of an eye. Sometimes there is. We have those holy instances, right? Where you're like, oh, I get it fast like this. But we're looking for long-term change here of really, really changing patterns of behavior, mindset, healing wounds that have been there our whole lives. They didn't get created in an instant, so they don't always get healed in an instant.
That's right.
Sometimes they do. Like, anything is possible. We have those moments, but it's a process. And it's not just do these 3 things and your life will change forever. It's not an Instagram post that you do once and then your life changes forever. It's a process. It's a lifelong journey. And it's okay that it's messy. I don't like that it's messy. Believe me, I like to schedule my emotions. I don't like people seeing that. Like, I do. My friends, they all know if I text them, I say, I'm having unscheduled feelings today. They're like, oh. And they now use that for themselves. They're like, I did not plan these feelings for today. So a lot of it is unplanned. It is out of our control. And we get to surrender to the process of remembering why we actually came here, to be our authentic selves and to find our way back to that.
Yeah, personally, when I've had those days of, unscheduled feelings, I will look at my astrology, and more often than not, it's something that's happening in the astrology that's usually extreme and pointed and enough to push all the way through. So then I feel it in every area of my life. So I found that to be beneficial to understand that, because then I could just go, oh, it's just that. And I can see the time it finishes just there. And that helps.
It's so true. Yeah. I have a friend, because I'm not good at astrology, which is weird because you think with my analytical brain, like it would be this perfect match, but I'm not. And so I have this friend, she has my chart memorized, and I'll text her. I'd be like, what are the planets doing today? Like, do I need to go up there? Because I will go up there and tell them they need to stop acting like they are.
Yeah, sometimes it plays out not only through me, but through the events around me. And it's like, oh, God, that's what's going on now. But it's good to be able to recognize it, because then you can step back and go, oh, okay, so that's just that. That's going to pass. That will pass. Yeah, yeah. Have you had any examples of some of your coaching works where you've seen such great change that you'd like to share it, but also make it anonymous, of course?
Oh, there's so many. Oh my gosh. Two of my clients come into mind. Is one, he was in a narcissistic relationship, a marriage, and he found me right as they had separated. And I was sort of his first realm into any personal growth, any healing work, that sort of thing. And it was great because he was so open to it. And he, for probably the first month that we worked together, the other part that people don't talk about with the narcissistic relationships is there's a withdrawal process that goes on. Like, you've been in this fight or flight mode for so long, your cortisol is so high, your adrenaline, you've been walking on eggshells, that when that person is then removed, we stay in that pattern. Your body is still in that pattern. You can't stop the racing thoughts. You think, why can I not stop thinking about this person? I know this isn't healthy. I know I don't want to be with them, but I can't stop thinking about them. And so that was really the beginning of the shift for him, where we talked about that and we normalized it. Like, this is normal. This is valid. This is what happens. And as we worked through that with him, then he started to see where he hadn't actually been himself for so long. He was such a joyful man that that was all gone. And he started to remember how much he liked to laugh, how much, it's kind of like the shroud comes on you. And then when that starts to get removed, you create a life from that moment then of remembering and who you really are. And he has an amazing partner now, and his life looks so, so different. And for all of you who think, oh, how do we not know? He was at the courthouse getting the marriage certificate, because here in Arizona, you go to the courthouse, you get your marriage certificate, and you have to write down all your previous marriages. That is when he found out that she had been married 5 times before.
Oh my God. Wow.
Right. And they got married that day anyway.
Oh,
So
no.
when I talk about, like, where the people are like, how did I not see it? Because the love bombing is real, because this feeling that you have with them that you've never had before is real. And so you bypass all of those things that your logic brain would be like, maybe we should pause for a second and, like, look at this. It's not possible in those moments because of our wounds, because of the trauma, all of those kind of things. And so we go along, and he's a completely different person now. He's back to who he was. Like, all of his friends are like, we've missed you for so long. We're so happy that you're back. And so those moments can really, really, really happen. And I have another client, his whole world, we worked together for years, and he had a lot of victimhood around some childhood things, and he was very reactive. And one of the things, and he's also very empathic. So, like, that's one of my, particular skill sets, is helping people who have both of these. Like, they're very in tune psychically. They don't know it, but they also have these challenges in their life. And so when we teach them behavioral patterns of, like, this is how you respond versus react, and they use their psychic gifts in those moments where they go, oh, the energy just shifted. This is now where I go, oh, this is my notification to myself to pause. They can now feel that in their own body. And he now uses that, like, he's a completely different person.
Yeah, I think it's really key to actually, when you are processing something or anything that's happening in the moment, just take the time to really soak it in. Just sit there with it, and that way you get to recognize the truth of it in different ways.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So how did starting a business with no idea teach you lessons about fear and success that perhaps traditional paths would not?
Oh, I just laugh because, like, it's one of those things, like, after, the head injury and the divorce and that sort of thing, is I really just started doing everything by intuition. And trust me, that was years of process and a very rough road. So, like, when I tell people it's messy and it's a process for all of us, it's very true. Just because I'm sitting on this side of the session doesn't mean that I haven't lived it. And
I think it's important that if you are actually helping people to have lived it yourself too. So yeah,
it's very, very true. And so I got the message of, like, you're going to start doing this to help people. And I was like, I'm going to do what? But I had learned enough that it's much easier if you just do what your guidance tells you to do, it goes much smoother. And every time I ask for something when I'm manifesting, or I ask a question, or I'm like, hey, let me know the information on this, I always add with ease and grace, because I got tired of the, getting whacked upside the head, literally sometimes, of the messages. And so still to this day, I'm always like, with easy, loud and clear, with ease and grace.
Yeah, don't drag me across the asphalt to make it happen.
Right. I was like, I know myself, but like little grace here. And so I got the message and I was like, okay. And then I taught myself how to build a website. And so I went and I did that. And it's a learning process every step of the way. And then, so I launched the website. There's a lot of work that goes into now being paid for your gifts, particularly like I'm a recovering people pleaser. I'm a recovering perfectionist. So really empowering and coming into what you came here to do and then offering it as a service. That's a lot of, there's a lot of, entrepreneurs that struggle with that part of then taking the money for it and their self-value and their self-worth. And from that point on, I just started, it was like, you're going to teach classes. One day it tells me you're going to teach. So then and all the downloads come and I taught the classes. And then a few years ago, I was doing this visibility challenge of becoming really public because I'm a massive introvert. And so I was doing a 30-day visibility challenge. And halfway through that, I came and I sat down on my computer one morning and I said out loud, I'm going to start a blog. And I looked around, I was like, who? It's just me and the cat. And so I was like, who? And I was like, which is not unusual. We talk all day long. You know what I mean? I'm like, but I actually said it out loud. And I was like, do people even still write blogs? Like, is that such a 90s thing? So then I Googled, taught myself how to write a blog. And then a few months later, it was like, you're going to start a podcast. And I'm like, I'm going to do what? And the hardest way possible, it was live streamed. It wasn't pre-recorded. It wasn't yet live streamed to Facebook, trying to figure out all the tech at the same time. Ooh. That's when people were still bombing in the Zooms and doing crazy stuff. And the topics were downloaded every week and I would write them. And then I would do the recording and the live stream. And that went on for like a year and a half. And then I was told to stop doing that. So I stopped doing it. So I just follow what I'm told to do. In the business part of it, I've had amazing people. I've had to learn marketing. I'm still learning marketing every day. And there are amazing teachers out there. Angela Johnson is one of my marketing mentors, and I've learned so much from her. And so find the people also that can support you in the things that you may not know how to do.
Yeah. You get your intuition ideas on how to actually progress in life. I mean, how do they come to you like that? I mean, obviously you've got that weighted feeling of yes, no. But how do your intuitions come to you? Are they like ideas with pictures and sounds, or anyone talking to you, anything like that?
It's a lot of them. I have pretty much the only one that isn't very strong for me is the smelling. I think that's the Claire Oleans. I did a series on this. You think I'd remember them? And because it really is a mix. Sometimes I'll get pictures. Sometimes I get, I just get a download of information of like, hey, you're supposed to create this event. Like I have an event idea right now of like sort of teaching people about animal communication in a different way. And there are sometimes things that'll come up in sessions. So there's been this concept lately, the last couple of months, of energetic caretaking. And it keeps coming up in sessions where clients where we may not behaviorally be caretaking someone anymore, but energetically, we're still in their business. We're still using our energy to rescue and do all of those kind of things. And so it literally sits on a sticky note to the right over here, and I'm waiting. I was like, when it's time to make a video or an episode or write a blog or something about, the rest of the information will come. And so my wall here that you can't see is covered in ideas, because also as a manifesting generator, we're multi-passionate. We get a lot of ideas. And so sometimes I get a picture. Sometimes the voice will be like, hey, you're supposed to go do this today, and you're supposed to talk to that person. And I'll be like, okay, I'll go do that. And I will tell people, it is so much easier to hear other people's guides and information and downloads and that sort of thing than sometimes your own. So if you are in your own psychic development, you're like, I'm not hearing anything, I'm not feeling anything. We all have those moments. Don't stress, you're not doing it wrong. There are times I ask questions and it's crickets and I get super mad. I'm like, I want to know. And they're like, la, 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 la. The information will come when it's time.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
have a
right.
lot of patience for myself. I have patience for other people. So, yeah. So it comes in all forms for me.
Yeah, I've had that be patient message many, many, many times, and it gets a bit frustrating when you're like, wow, I want everything to happen. So,
Yes. You're like, but I'm ready now.
yeah, I'm ready now. Let's make this life happen now. Yeah,
What do you mean I have to wait for the other chess pieces on the board to move around? I
exactly.
can move all their pieces. Just let me do it.
Can embracing our misfit qualities actually give us superpowers? Can you tell us more about why feeling weird just might be our greatest asset?
Oh, yes. And it's funny, as you said that, I was just in this moment transported back to high school, which is
Okay.
interesting because, in high school, right, you want to be like everyone else. So much in society is, and it's changing. Like, that's what's really amazing, is that we're coming into a time of being able to really celebrate our differences. There's a lot going on in the US right now that is challenging a lot of that. But overall, we can talk about psychic things now where 20 years ago, it would be considered even more weird or something you didn't talk about in public. And it really, really is so much about not so much about being different, but about being authentic, like actually being ourselves of who we came here to be and not a clone of everyone else and not the fitting in. And by no means, like, I understand I'm saying those words, it's a process. And because there is a lot that can come with when you're different, a lot of people's judgments, a lot of other people's opinions. And that's one of the great things that a guide or a mentor can really help you through when those kind of things come up, particularly if your family, if your nuclear family isn't on board with some of your spiritual beliefs, that can be really, really challenging. And so to have someone, whether it's friends, mentor, support you through that is really, really important. And the truth is like, yeah, it is our superpower because when you learn how you function in this world, because everybody has intuition, but when you learn how you get yours specifically, like what your clair is, and now you go, oh, I can tap into that. And that helps you make your decisions every day. That helps you in your relationships. That helps you in your life path. That helps you, decide what it is you want to create moving forward in your dreams. That's a superpower. Because the crazy part is, and not crazy, but like for those of us that are innately awake to this, we don't understand why someone wouldn't choose that. Because your life can look so much different. It can be easier in certain ways. And the truth is there are people that don't choose that. And so choosing it alone is a superpower. Making a choice and following through on it in a world with a lot of people that don't do that, that's a superpower also.
Yeah. It's key to actually recognize what you can do and what you can't do at the time, but it might not always be that way. I grew up a bit of a black sheep myself in society, and I really desperately wanted to fit in with all of the people that I knew in school and everything. But I think as you evolve over time and realize that it doesn't matter,
Yeah.
you can just be you. And I think that's one of the toughest things to actually get into that. And into that groove of it. Once you're in there, it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. And that's why I started this podcast as well. Like, I'm going to talk about everything and help people to understand that it's okay to be the unusual person, the black sheep, and get everyone's word out there besides my own. So, yeah. Okay, so when someone feels stuck between their past trauma and their desire for a transformational growth, how do we start shifting our identity without losing ourselves along the way?
It's really one of this. I mean, we all have those moments in life where we feel stuck, like it happens. And it's one of those pivotal moments, like you're saying, where it's the shedding of the old version of ourselves and the new version coming in, where we could be jumping timelines, we could be making quantum leaps. And particularly right now, like we're jumping timelines so quickly in what is happening in the world right now. And And that's one of the things I've been helping people with lately. They're like, I can't keep up. I'm like, I know, everybody's jumping timelines like super fast. Because usually you jump a timeline, you kind of get to settle in, get that version of yourself, and then there'll be another one. But right now it's just happening so fast that we're not even getting able to settle into the timeline that we just jumped into.
That's right.
And it's so true. And so there's the transformation process is happening so quickly right now. So when we have this feeling of stuck, it's these old pieces of us that we hold on to that we think are comfortable. We think that it's what actually creates our safety. And the truth is safety is an illusion. And trust me, I get it. I like feeling safe. Who doesn't? And it's a human illusion. And so it's that place of, we have that, for me, it's a feeling, but the sense of there's something else coming. There's this desire in yourself to start to talk about something differently or start to behave in a different way, or you have these emotions of where you're like, I'm starting to feel joy like I never have before, or I'm starting to not care what people think anymore. A lot of that happens to come with age, which is, fabulous. And so there are some benefits to maturing. And it's this place of really recognizing and acknowledging like it's okay. Because we have so many judgments of, I'm not supposed to feel this way, or it needs to be faster or slower, or what's wrong with me, and go, I'm just going to sit right here and go, it's okay to feel stuck. I'm not going to be here forever. Because when we acknowledge something, then we can change it. If we keep going, I'm not going to look over there and I'm going to play ostrich and keep my head in the sand, it doesn't shift. So we sit, we be present with it, and we go, I'm having all of this. I'm feeling stuck. I can see that these old things are kind of falling away, but I'm also having some fear of what this new version looks like because it's unknown and it's this new adventure. And when we allow ourselves to be in that moment and be judgment free, that's where the transformation starts to happen, because that's when the door opens and then you step through the door and into the room. As humans, we like to see all the steps, right? Like they're like, I want to see the next 5 steps because then I'll choose the first step. But the universe, God, source, whatever your language is, goes, because we know step 3 is probably going to be a little challenging. So they don't show us. They're like, we'll give you step 1. And then when you do step 1, we'll give you step 2. Because if you see the whole thing, you're going to bail because you're going to be like, that might suck in the middle. And that's why, humans, we're so adorable and we're so cute, and that we want to see everything. And there's a reason we don't get to see everything because we wouldn't do it.
I think that's part of the reason why they erase our memories on the way in too. It's like,
right?
Because like you're up there in the eternal infinite light, and you get the travel brochure, and you're like, oh, that's a great life. Next minute you're born, but if you actually read the whole brochure, you wouldn't go.
It's true. I make the joke all the time that I was drunk. I was like, listen, I thought the water I was drinking was actually vodka. And before I got on the bus and I signed all these contracts, I was like, it'll be fine. It'll be okay. So yeah, I make the joke that I was drunk. I don't drink a lot, but it's this place of, for me, I always do my best to find the humor in the challenging situations.
So speaking of your sense of humor, you actually stated in some of the things I've read about your wicked sense of humor. How has that served you during dark times, and can you share some behind the scenes stories?
There's a lot of laughing at yourself because people think, well, you have all these psychic gifts, you should be able to. And the truth is, we don't always get our own information. Like, that's why we don't get the winning lottery tickets. We don't get, because we're here to have the same human experience as everyone else. And when we learn to use some of it, it's great, but it's not a hall pass to be like, you get everything easy. And so there's a lot of laughing at myself. Like I said, I get in my own way all the time. And I'll be like, dang it, I did it again. I am standing literally like I knew, and I did it anyway. And then you play the tape back, and you're like, oh, right there, I had that feeling. And I was like, nope, I gave that person the benefit of the doubt for the 9th time, even though I know better. And I ended up here again. And so it's sometimes when we have certain behavioral patterns or whatever, it's not that they go away forever, but we catch them sooner. and they don't last as long. So I said, I'm a recovering people pleaser and perfectionist. Those are still part of me. Those girls are in the back seat of the car. And sometimes they make it to the front and they drive the car for a while, and I have to grab them and shove them in the back seat. Now I get to love those parts of me, but I catch it sooner and they don't drive the car as long. But I don't have to get rid of them. There isn't a part of this of where we're cutting parts of ourselves off and saying they're bad and you have to go away. They're just another brick in my lighthouse, and I get to love them just as much. And so those are kind of how my sense of humor looks at it, where it's like, well, who's driving the bus today? It wasn't me, clearly. And is there cleanup what did I run over? I got to go clean up the things now.
I love that story, and the way you explained that, the idea of another brick in your lighthouse. That's really, really good, because that's exactly the way it should be, to recognize that all parts of ourselves are important and valid.
Yeah.
To making a whole self. Now, we often get advice about finding yourself, and what if instead we focus on creating ourselves anew? What would that mindset shift in everything?
Oh my goodness. Because it's so much about the remembering and like you said, creating the new version of ourselves. And for me, when we talk about the new version, what those words mean to me is the true version of us. Because it's so much of, we come into this world completely open, right? Like as babies, we're like, we're here, we're fabulous, we signed all the things, it's going to be great. And we're open and we're open and we're open. And love just pours out of us. And then society and people and experiences, put the boxes on, well, nope, that's not okay. Or, the trauma happens. And we then morph into something that wasn't the true version of what we originally came into. And then most of the time we have this, we call it the awakening, right? Coming out of the matrix. And you go, oh, and we start to remove those pieces and remember who we really were, what we came here to be, and then create that new version of ourselves, which is actually the true version. And then your world looks so different. Like you said, it's so much about like, just be yourself. Nobody really cares. And the people that are having those massive opinions, they're not your inner circle. They're not people that you're going to turn to for support. They're not your champions. So what they say, you get to choose whether or not it has an effect. Like we have those choices throughout our lives of, we get to choose to be at the effect of something, or we get to choose to be the one creating the change and being the catalyst in every moment. Now, it doesn't mean like we all still have those moments where at the effect of someone and we go, oh, having, for me, unscheduled feelings, I'm having a very human day. And then I go, okay, how can I shift this? How is this a benefit to me? What's right about this I'm not getting? And so when we become that next version of ourselves, which never ends, we're here for this human experience, however many years we're here. And this process is ongoing. I'm not the same person I was 6 months ago. And I may not even be, probably even 3 months ago. And I won't be the same person 3 months from now. And it's really, people get scared of that. And my invitation is like, don't. It's the best thing in the whole world is to be moving forward like this and be like, oh, who am I today? Oh, today this is easy for me. 2 months ago, this would have been really, really hard. And I was talking to someone a couple of weeks ago. She's 26, and we were talking about some things. And my birthday is this week. I'm going to be 52, which just still seems crazy to me some days because I don't feel that chronological age. And I was telling her, I was like, no, I'll just go do stuff by myself. I'll go. And she's like, I could never do that. And I was like, you know what? At 26, I probably couldn't have either. I said, but today doesn't faze me at all. Because I want my life to look different. I want to have different experience. So that means I've got to get out of my comfort zone. I've got to choose something different.
Yeah. Powerful. Okay, so as someone who's deeply connected both spiritually and scientifically, how do those worlds meet inside you? And what does that mean for folks skeptical about spirituality and creating real results?
It's funny, I was talking to someone who was very skeptical the other day. And having this kind of conversation. And here's the thing. A dose of skepticism is really, really important also. When you're going into anything, my invitation is like, do not blindly accept anything anyone is telling you.
Yes. Yeah, good filters.
And because there are people in every profession that are not always acting in integrity. And so always listen to your own intuition. Please do not just blindly buy into what someone else is telling you. And I mean, that's one of the things when I work with people, we'll be talking to be like, how does this feel? Like, what's your own intuition? Because I teach them to listen to their own intuition. And then if they're like, I don't know, we'll walk it through. And they'll be like, oh, this was something from the past. And da-da-da. And I was like, great, let's look at that. And so when you happen to be super analytical, one of the things that we get to learn is where is it acting as your superpower and where is it a trauma response or a maladaptive behavior of overthinking, right? Because if you had trauma, you get into that overthinking and the analyzing and you're having those conversations in your head all of the time, like I should have, or you're prepping for one, there's maybe a little bit going on with a friend. And so you have all the preparatory arguments in your head, like while you're in the shower, like if they say this, I'm going to say that. If they say this, I'm going to say that. And that can be exhausting because 9 times out of 10, only one of those happens to occur. But if you've had trauma, the human in us likes to be prepared. And if you are someone like me who didn't have a voice, didn't use a voice for so very long in your life, when you have the language, it can change a lot of things. But that can slip into the overthinking and having all those preparatory arguments in your head, which now you're drained. And so when you have that science part, it's very much tapping into where it's a healthy dose of your analyzing, the self-reflection, the self-awareness, and not slipping into the overthinking, and then using your intuition and bringing those together as the bridge of how am I seeing the world, removing those filters, removing the judgments, and seeing the situation for what it truly is clearly.
So for people that are wanting to take the first steps in maybe contacting and being more in tune with their intuition, is there any pro tips that you have?
Absolutely. The first thing is learn how you get your information. And so, because if you're clairaudient, your intuition is going to look different than someone who's clairvoyant. And so it's very much learning how your information comes in. And from that point, the world is your oyster. Nice. And there's lots of resources out there. Like I have a free ebook on my website. I've got videos on it that talks about like each one. Like if you're clairaudient, this is what it can look like. Here's how you can do it. Here's some tools. If you're clairvoyant, if you're claircognizant, because then because you're already getting all the information. It's already happening. You either just may not be aware of it or you don't know that that's what it is. And then when you read the things, you go, oh my God, the music, because for clairaudient, music is a big thing for them. They're like, that's why I always hear things in song lyrics. It's like, yeah, they're trying to give you your messages. You're not crazy. That's what was happening. Yeah. And so we give the framework of what you're already receiving. We give you the framework and now you can put those together and move forward.
Nice. So Alicia, we've come towards the end of the podcast. How can people find you and your works and maybe some of these free ebooks you're talking about?
Absolutely. Well, first I want to say just absolutely thank you so much to you and for what you do and for having me on the show. And I hope it was a benefit to your listeners. And this has just been so amazing for me. And I'm glad we were able to connect. So you can go to my website, which is whoknewhealing.com. And that's new with a K, as in who knew the science girl was also woo woo. I did not pick the name, the universe did. So whoknewhealing.com. And also, Insights with Alicia is a podcast I used to have. There's tons of free resources out there, intuitive development, a lot of relationship stuff. And there's a lot, I think I have like five free things on my website. There's a video you can watch about how your energy affects your relationship with your animal. There's the Claire ebook. There's a relationship checklist. I can't think of what the other one is. The whole melty passionate thing. We're always making stuff and putting it out there. So my website, Who Knew Healing, is probably the most structured foundational place to be able to gather more information.
Excellent. Okay, Alicia, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all your understanding, your intuition and your story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'll just say goodbye to the listeners. Alicia's perspective is a bit of fresh air in that she actually is a A person who's experienced things but also has come out the other side with such powerful gifts and compassion for herself and others that she loves to share it. If you've enjoyed today's show, please remember to like and subscribe. It's free. And also, if you're on a podcast app, give us 5 stars and share it to a friend who you think may learn a lot more about themselves and their way of being in life by listening to Alicia as well. So thanks for listening. Until next episode, it's bye for now.